You're not tired. I'm trying to motivate you to be more engaged. I'm not going to speak. I'm trying to introduce some challenges, new challenges, and introducing some question. And I'm here to motivate you to take part in the last section of our second day conference. So first of all, you can see our public talks. Yesterday, my friends, Mikel from University of Polytechnic Catalonia, started to speak about synergy between public space design and sustainable mobility. Today, I'm talking about urban transformation issue in public space, which is a very important issue. And tomorrow we have public space and pedagogy from multidisciplinary perspective. Before starting, I should say my thanks to Mrs. Karimi that introduced urban renewal projects in level of public spaces in Tehran. I asked Milad to have a short clip.
شب آروم ولی پر رفت و راه
Okay, for many years, this place in Isfahan has been a place for singing for Isfahani people, but it has affected not only in Isfahan, you can see people are gathering here, talking together, and drinking here, and you can see singing here. In Iranian music, there is a special section with the name of Isfahan. At least, many years ago, at least 400 years ago, from Safavid period, I think this place has been affected on such part of Iranian music. And you know, music is a great part of a culture because it is connecting to literature, to people insights, to people attitudes, and to people everyday life. This is another view of this place. For a long time, this place has been powerful, but no, it is not powerful as what it has been in the history, because there is a lot of change about environmental issue in Isfahan. Now, in Iranian academic section, some sort of researchers have been started to evaluate the effect of environmental challenges and climate challenges on what people thinking in public spaces. And it is in progress. I cannot say surely that losing the water here has affected on singing of people, but roughly we can say it has been affected. So I think this is the problem. There is a question. We can approve or we cannot approve, but it is clear that climate change impacts on public space. How we can mitigate, how we can adapt. And you know that mitigation and adaptation are two strategies in thinking about climatic changes. But what can we do about public spaces? This is the first question. Another issue that is cause of new changes in 21st century, it's a phenomenon. Before and after of cities. It was in Photoshop, but now it's real. You can see Dubai in 1991 and 2005. 2000 and now, 2005 and now. A city is burning. A city is burning. A lot of urban spaces is burning. And you can see in Abu Dhabi, it's crystal clear. In Singapore, and in the best example of this phenomenon in China, you can see the changing identity of Shenzhen from a village to a great city with a lot of challenges. And also you can see Shanghai. This is the bound area near the river. For many years, this area has been a waterfront. But now it's in a stage for visiting buildings. It's a change. I'm not talking about is it positive or is it negative. It's a change. In China, should be a best example for this change. That's why the first Urban Transition Summit held in China, in Shanghai. Also, Thank you. Also, you can see traditional stacked streets of Chinese people. Most of them are disappearing day by day in China. And you can see a lot of shopping malls, different buildings are rejuvenating like a mushroom in big cities of China like Shanghai or Beijing. Let me come back to a metaphor from Napoleon Bonaparte. When he started to invade the east of the world, when reached to China, told that we should stop. If we want, he told that this dragon has been slept. Let him to be slept. If he is waking, if it is waking up, it shake the world. So China now is shaking the world. I think Chinese experience can shake urban literature. So you know that driving forces like population, politics, governance, wealth, lifestyle, innovations, mega events, competition, economic growth, and culture have been more analyzed in studies in urban transformation literature. But there is a very important question. How much we studied urban transformation in public spaces level? How much we analyzed the interaction of public space and urban transformation? There are a lack of studies, especially in Iranian urban literature. Maybe the main reference in this area is the book by Professor Madanipur, Public Space and the Challenges of Urban Transformation in Europe, which is concentrating on Europe. If we are concentrating on China, on Middle East countries, which one of the driving forces now is war in Syria, in Libya, in Egypt. One of the driving forces on public spaces is protest. You know the effect of urban squares in what is so-called Arab Spring, but we are calling something that. In Iranian literature, we have found one of the best researchers by one of our colleagues, Ahmad from El Musanat University, is here, that is studying the effect of forces in creating public space. And from 2 years ago, we started some sort of researchers about urban transformation and the effect on public spaces in Isfahan. So these are the questions. Maybe the speed of urban change and transformation is a new phenomenon. We cannot, as an urban planners and designers, control this speed because it's in hand of others. It's out of public spaces. But what can we do to save public spaces or make them compatible to this phenomenon? All of them are questions. I have no answers. This is only for speaking together. Maybe one of the solutions is introducing new typologies of public spaces. Yesterday, we were talking about it, but one of the main researchers in this area has been done by Matthew Carmona, that he is introducing new types of public spaces like innovative spaces, consumption spaces, and something like that. There is a question. Isn't a passive confrontation only introducing new typologies, accepting what is happening in public space, and trying only to analyze? Or maybe we can find another ways. The other question are bringing up, which tools and methods can help us to analyze such a phenomenon? Can we well equipped to control the effects of such phenomenon in urban spaces? As urban designers and urban planners, should we change our mindset, or can we do something like that? Also, all of you aware of dramatic socio-economic changes everywhere, in every city, all over the world, especially the east of the world, with a special nature, in Middle East with a special nature, in Latin American with a special nature. For example, in Latin American, analyzing public spaces in informal settlements is an issue, but it's not a big issue in Europe. So, should we have only analyzed, in my idea, what sociologists are doing? It's only analyze. But how can we use their analysis to make better urban spaces in the future, which is our concentration in this conference, based on such huge changes that we cannot control them. So, this is the problem statement. There are questions, and the main hall is ready to listen to your notes, your comments, and your explanation. Sorry?
You're asking for answers.
Yeah. Not answers. You can share your thinking. Maybe you can share your experiences. Maybe you can share some issues like that at your countries, in your cities, and if not, we can continue to that.
And they have an inner courtyard, but still inside, have a roof. And the air conditioning system are working all the time. Even the lighting are very good. So here we are. I think it's, yeah, you were right. It's affected by the global warming, at least in Indonesia. I don't know with other country. And it's difficult to force people to enjoy the park that is very, very hot and polluted. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your comment. We have such same problem in Ahwaz, the city that is affecting from dust storm. A lot of days in a year, people cannot go out. Now, the municipality as Ahwaz is working to introduce new guidelines how to cover your windows, how to well equip your windows. This is their solution. It means that please stay at your home, stay at your home, stay at your home. We have such problems maybe in Indonesia. This is one of the solutions. Going to shopping malls that we have better climate conditions. Any evidence from other countries?
I want to tell you about something about Isfahan. Since I'm from Isfahan, and even today there is no water there, but people every night, every day get together and singing, almost dancing there, you know, just, it was very interesting for me. I think the public spaces and the feeling of the people is very related to each other. You know, the sense of the place is very important. For example, today in Kharju Bridge, there is no water, but people get together and singing and dancing and something like that. I want to tell you about something about the roof of Tehran. You know, some places in Tehran, there is no special designing, there is no planning, but people go there and look at the city and enjoy those places. There are public spaces. Because it's their feeling, I think the sense of place is more important than other things. This is my idea.
Thank you. Another question is rising up. Maybe the power in Kharju Bridge is culture, and Iranian culture is very powerful because it's a consequence of thousands of years in this country. there is a question, can climate change affect on such power of culture? I think it's time to think about this question, to preserve that culture, to empower that culture, or maybe to find other ways. But your comments is true, because from 5 years ago, I am studying Khaju Bridge every year, at least 2 or 3 times every year. I'm coming there to take photos, to make films. But a little bit, I think it's time to be conscious, to have concern. Because another change in Isfahan is happening. There is a shopping mall, the name is City Center. For Isfahani people, with those culture of singing, gathering, and as you know, Isfahani people have special details of culture in welcoming, in gathering, but roughly most of them, not most of them, many of them like City Center a lot. And when you say to them, when can we go spend our time, one of first choices is City Center. We are working on this phenomenon in Isfahan, and maybe Isfahan is our frontier. If the frontier is captured, the other cities should be lost. Another comments? Another Isfahani people.
Well, thank you very much. I would like to add a comment which Dr. Ehsan mentioned about my thesis. My thesis is about transformation of public space. Actually, I'm an Isfahanian, so I would like to mention that the process of urban transformation in Isfahan affected by different driving forces. I mean that it's not only by the people, but also it would happening by the governor and also by the culture of the Isfahanian. I mean that it's in this time we need to change our mind. We need to change our perspective on what is the public space is. I mean that if we there is a need, there is a potential need to change the literature of public space in order to improve our life.
Thank you. Thank you from our colleague from Portugal.
Thank you very much. Very relevant questions that you are posing, and they come in line with the very interesting discussion that we have been taking throughout these days. And I was wondering that with such a deep question, maybe the answers cannot be found on the superficial level at which sometimes we work. What I mean is, as urban designers, as architects, as planners, sometimes we are trying to solve design issues, physical issues. Sometimes we try to go further and handle with social issues, economic issues. But there is also underlying and very, very strong force, which is really the societal infrastructure, let's say. What are the political economies underlying today's society? What are their rationales? What is the impact of globalization in the management of different cities? So cities, taking the words of Professor Mandanipur, and public space, of course, they mirror the society. So these issues are really about the very DNA of society and the different the diversity of its expressions across the globe. Considering that there are global flows of capital, of information, of power, how do they intermingle with the local specificities will mean different spaces, different public spaces, different challenges and different issues in each one of the local places. So thank you for your raising questions, and I think it's really a big challenge for us to go as deep as we can, not forgetting the more superficial and everyday challenges that we face.
Thank you. I can add a comment. Most of the time we are thinking the public spaces during the history have been created by people. But now all of public spaces are created by society. The answer is clear. Someone who have more power, more money, have been active in creating public spaces. And in academic section, we are accepting them as a new issues. And we are analyzing it, and we are trying to put them in typologies of public spaces. Another comments? And here. Where the microphone is more near. Yeah.
My discussion about the urban transformation we see in Dubai and Singapore and the other city, maybe in Asia. This is important. We can find the main problem and the main things in this transformation. I think this transformation with money and capital system, and it's very, very, very powerful. We see in the history, we see it very, very much about maybe, for example, Hasman and Robert Moose, and maybe Dubai. It's maybe how we say it's always do that, and it's the character of system. It's one of the character of system, and it has a very, 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 very negative impact. Maybe air pollution, maybe the change of the lifestyle, people lifestyle, and change of the culture, but they are not important because it should be that. Because the system and the money should be maintain him and should be survive and do this. And for this system and for this system, it's not very important if maybe our air is very pollution, my rivers are very destroyed, and the other things, and the change of our culture and lifestyle is not very important. I think if we find the main problem, we can solve it better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Okay. Today we have a lot of examples and proof from Isfahan. I have add more from the city. Isfahan nowadays experiences a bad situation from different point of view, and I should add also air pollution. One of the main reasons from these air pollutions came from the two main factories located in Isfahan, as you may know, Zobahan and Fulad Mubarakeh. Firstly, these two factories were located south of Iran, Bandar Abbas. But on that time, some powerful Isfahanian affect this decision, and they moved these two factories to Isfahan because they thought this factory creates jobs, money, and something like this. But now, and after half century, it proves that is very serious fault. You know, it produced many pollutions, even dangerous than Tehran. We have a lot of days. We have many days that it is not safe for special groups. I wanted to mention that you know, politics and politics in different scales, in even global, national, cities, and every scale could affect public space and urban space. From that faults, from these two factory movement, today Isfahan experience a bad feeling, have a bad feeling, and as you know, many public space, as you mentioned, is free and nobody gather. People are not happy from different reasons. I mentioned from this politics, you know, in national. I should add some hidden power, you know, some hidden games change our everyday life. We are talking here today, and we don't know anything from the decisions in big scales, and maybe we experience bad things, or I hope good things. 2 days, 2 centuries later, I don't know. Maybe I should add some exact things. We should be more active, or I don't know. Maybe we should social justice or something. Some decisions should be announced exactly for people, and people should know what the politicians are going to affect their lives. I hope I could negotiate my thought.
Thank you. I add a sentence. Maybe this sentence is a result of your notes. The issue of public space is coming up from urban level to national level. And other comments?
Hello, thank you very much. I think it is better to ask what is public interest? What is private interest? I think the main problem is the public and private interest ill-defined. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Christina from United States.
You know that I've been waiting. I think I will approach the question in a different way, or maybe open a different argument. I think it's not the change in the climate that could be relevant. It could be that as designers, we have always been manipulating our environment according to the climate. So in northern countries, like in Canada, you have underneath malls, and they communicate underneath because it's too cold. Or in the southern of the United States, you have open malls because the weather is so good. So I guess that climate is a factor that changes the public space for sure. We protect ourselves from the cold, and we open up with the light. And I think I'm piggyback riding with some comments that were thrown in the audience before. I will also argue that climate change is a factor of migration. So you have a lot of being living in a country that received migration, you can see the transformation in public space because the public space is not used homogeneously anymore. You need to think about different cultures living in a public space, and it's about tolerance.
Thank you. What time is it?
Very much.
So I think 5 minutes later we should stop. Yeah.
Just a short remark to all similar. discussions. There is a big problem which you can see just watching the presentations. We all are educated in the spirit of the 20th century. We are all quoting Lefebvre, Harvey, and Walter Benjamin, and Kevin Lynch. But it is the 21st century. And it is a different world. The money which are around are incomparably bigger. The amount of capital, which is a virtual capital. It is no real capital as it was still in the first half of the 20th century, when all national currencies were based on golden standard. There is no golden standard. National currencies are based on nothing. And the world around us, it is a bubble. It is a bubble produced by an increased amount of money. And architecture and towns which are around us are constructed by technologies which were unimaginable still in the first half of the 20th century. And if we are educated in principle, in technologies, in ideas of the first half of the 20th century, maybe in the first half of the 19th century, it depends. At the schools of architecture, students, as far as I can speak for my school, it is the Faculty of Architecture in Prague, students are taught the technologies which are outdated. They are not taught the technologies used in Dubai when constructing Burj Al Khalifa, not at all. These technologies are outside of what's normally constructed and what's normally perceived. So this is a problem that we are still thinking, in principle, when thinking about public space, we think about medieval cities, which were perfect from my point of view. But they are old. We can renovate them, but the world is moving forward.
It's very interesting that Pavel is coming from Prague and say some notes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here, another one.
Hello. Regarding the transformation of urban public spaces, my PhD thesis was about recognition of contemporary urban public spaces in Tehran, and I have reached to a narrative and normative new typology. I worked on it by grounded theory method, and my experience was interviewing with different level of Tehran people, up, middle, and down, in terms of development criteria. And I think that we should, and I reached to a new typology regarding the space type, functions, paradigms, rights and responsibilities, and the relationship and communication in the spaces. I think that for studying these changes and transformations in public spaces, we should consider the affecting factors and paradigms on urban public spaces, the changes during the time, the critics from different theories from different parts of the world, and the typologies which have been used till now. And at the end, I think that we should first accept all types of urban public spaces, even with a small sign or a small characteristic of a public space. At first, we should accept them as public spaces, because anyway, if we like it or not, people are using them. People are using shopping malls, parks, theme parks, as well as the squares and streets. And so I think that first of all, we should accept them as public spaces, urban public spaces, and then we can talk about their quality, how to utilize their characteristics, and how to plan them to be a better public space for people to live in. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing the results of your thesis, which is very important. Should we accept all of them? And maybe I'm coming back to the comment of my friend. What is the interest? what is the interest of people. Is the interest of people changing? Should be acceptable in any way. If someone change the interest of people, what can we do? Thank you. I think 2 more questions. One here and one here. Not questions, comments.
Good evening. In my idea, as you know, city is a dynamic phenomenon. So change is an endemic characteristic of a city. As public space is a part of subsystems of urban subsystem, so public spaces are multi-faceted phenomena. So a wide extent of criteria act as driving force in shaping the future of public spaces. As our friend from Portugal mentioned that we cannot consider the subject superficial, because there is a lot of layers that have effects on public spaces. Some of the criteria act in global level, like climate change, but some of them are local, and it depends on the case. For example, in the case of Indonesia or Ahvaz, the environmental element is more powerful than in comparison with other elements. So in my idea, we should consider each public space as a unique entity and then plan for it and design it. We cannot prescribe the same proposal for all kind of public spaces.
Thank you. As a result, maybe we should broaden our mind about which factors are affecting on public space more than what is happening in classic text of urban spaces and urban design. Maybe we need to introduce new literature on this issue. And
first of all, we should define the expression of public space.
yeah. The final comment.
Yes, my name is Sahba. I'm a PhD architecture student. I want to talk about an example about public space and environmental issues. The city of Lavasan, which is very close to Tehran, when we want to enter to city, there is a bridge, and under this bridge is a river coming from Latian Dam. I don't know who first gave this idea to make a public space very, very close to this river line. The municipality of Lavasan, or I'm not sure which organization. But people coming to Lavasan in their free time from Tehran or other areas, we can consider them as ecotourists, and we can develop ecotourism in this city or the similar cities like Oshan Pasham or other places. For being so close to nature, close to water, we don't need to go into the water. Like the example that in the last session they showed, that bazaar they have built in the new town. One fountain and one program is enough for this plan. And the idea was less depth, water depth, and more surface in that public area. And with that construction, they interfere too much into the river. Now the river is fading up, so I don't know, they wanted to prevent people from demolishing the nature. Now they demolished something else, something which is, I think, more important. Or I don't know, they wanted to make money from car parking or food shops or whatever. But I think architecture students and teachers, they know all these things very well, but in our country specifically, the problem is in decision-making section only. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we have to close this session. I don't want to introduce solutions, but I think maybe this mindset can help. 3P is most of the time well known for you as public-private partnership, but I want to introduce public spaces planning policies. Maybe in Iran, we need to have public spaces in national level of planning that is disappear in land use planning. We have nothing about land use planning. In Persian we say sarane, about public spaces. And other thing that I want to introduce, and maybe I work in the future, we have, for everything we have impact assessment, especially in Iran. Nowadays we have social impact assessment in municipality of Tehran, and they are very concerning about it. I'm coming back to my colleague. In my idea also, it is not effective in administrative level of Tehran. And also we have environmental impact assessment, strategical impact assessment. So should we add Q to this one as quality impact assessment in public space to gather all the factors in urban level, regional level, national level, and global level on public spaces. Thank you.